If you are someone who genuinely cares about the well-being of children, you need to prioritize the well-being of mothers. The two are inextricably linked. We reap what we sow. We cannot raise thriving children if the mothers are unsupported, traumatized, running on empty. We cannot raise whole, healthy children if we ourselves are not. Hey Mama, welcome back to the Whole Mama Show, and we're revealing the untold stories of motherhood. Now, today's episode is one that's very, very close to my heart, and that's the topic of mental health. Mental health in general has thankfully gotten a lot more recognition these days. Honestly, I'm so thankful for that. We're seeing a lot more awareness, a lot more conversations being had about it. There's much more visibility in general. More people are opening up about it, which I think is great. But when it comes to mothers in particular, I feel like there's still a lot that is left unsaid. And that's where my passion really lies. And that's where a lot of the work that I do is inspired by. For me, it's not happy baby, happy mommy. It's happy mommy, happy baby. So the well-being of mothers will always be my starting point. And if you don't really know my story, you're probably wondering why this is such a big deal for me. And it's because it's not just a theoretical thing. It's something that I've lived through myself. So it is quite personal. So let me just take you back. Before I became a mom, I thought I knew. I thought I understood when people were saying it's so hard, it's a lot of work, and you kind of nod along and you think, yeah, I get it. But the thing is, you don't. I mean, you actually can't. Not until you're in it. That's when you understand how massive it is to have a child and become somebody's mother and responsible for another human being's life. So yeah, just like with a lot of other experiences in life, you can't really understand it until you are in it. It is very different seeing it from the outside and actually living it. I mean, your entire world completely changes. Your body completely changes. Your choices feel different, and your mind. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand, just how much pregnancy as well as childbirth actually changes the physical as well as the emotional, but particularly the mental state of a woman. And that's why I believe it's just not given enough attention, right? So after I had my first child, I went through postpartum depression. And many of you already know that about my story. I delved much deeper into it in the first episode of my podcast, as well as the season finale of season 2. Here's something that a lot of people don't know a lot of things about postpartum depression. One thing that some people might not know about is that I wasn't actually diagnosed until 18 months postpartum. Yeah, 18 months. But the thing is, I knew quite early on that something wasn't quite right. But that's how long it took me to get an official diagnosis and eventually the support that I needed to carry me through that time. That whole journey was just such a roller coaster. I went through a lot of healthcare professionals just brushing me off, me battling the shame of even admitting that I wasn't okay. And that's the thing about mental health. As much as there's a lot of conversations around mental health happening now, it's still such a big taboo in a lot of cultures. Growing up, I never felt like it was okay to say that I'm not okay. I did have a bout of depression when I was a teenager, and I remember that time was very confusing for me, just getting the kind of support that I needed. The words were just never depression. Obviously, now looking back on it, I could understand it a bit better. And a lot of people, I think now, even when women, mothers speak up and say, I think I might be depressed, the response is often, but why? What do you actually have to be depressed about? A friend of mine actually had asked me after I shared that I was diagnosed with postpartum depression and I was going through therapy. And she asked the question, I know not in a way to invalidate what I was feeling, but more to understand. But it's something that I know a lot of people still don't completely understand, because the idea of depression is, I think, very one-dimensional. And that question was, but what happened? What was the thing that caused you to be depressed? Like it was a singular event or a singular thing, something that just switched my brain and I became depressed. I think because a lot of people believe that, they believe the opposite is also true for how you can get out of depression. I mean, a lot of people who go through mental health issues hear the response from somebody, whether it's intentionally hurtful or not. They say, okay, so you're depressed, just snap out of it, as if it's that easy. And trust me, having been depressed as well as managing anxiety throughout my life, my everyday life, it really isn't as simple as just. And unfortunately, that way of thinking still shows up so much in motherhood and the way we talk about it. The dominant narrative of motherhood is still this whole thing of it's blissful and it's beautiful and it's miraculous and it's this perfect experience that everything just comes and you know exactly what to do and how to take care of your child. But the truth is, it's also really hard, and it's also really exhausting, and it's also really lonely. All of those are true. Yes, it's beautiful. Yes, it's miraculous. Yes, it is joyful for some, but it is also all of the other things. And sometimes it comes with postpartum depression and anxiety and a whole lot more. I really believe that that's where a lot of the misunderstanding happens. People don't always get that you can love your child deeply yet still not enjoy every single part of motherhood. I mean, I've seen it online so many times, comments like, yeah, but you should be grateful and you should be happy. That word should, triggering, very triggering. Because when you say that to a mother who's already feeling vulnerable and inadequate and overwhelmed, you're not helping her. It doesn't help. For me, you're gaslighting her, invalidating a very, very real and often very painful experience. And I know because I was one of those mothers. So here's another truth about postpartum depression. Depression in general, it doesn't look the same for everyone. People often imagine someone who can't get out of bed, someone who cannot go to work, someone who can't eat, and they're sad all the time. Like you can just almost see it in their faces. And sure, that's completely true for some people, but that wasn't my story either. When I finally opened up about my postpartum depression, so many people in my circle were just like, wait, what? When did that happen? I never saw anything. You seemed fine. And that's because I was what they call a high-functioning depressed mom. I still got up and I went to work. I was going to lunch and I was taking care of my child and I was smiling in public. I knew when I could smile and when I needed to hide my stress and my anger and my tears. Because at the same time, I was just destroyed inside and I was shaming myself over and over and over again. And for me, that's why conversations like this are so important, because depression is not a one-size-fits-all situation. I loved my son. The moment I held him, it clicked. I always say that I recognized his soul. I didn't have a problem bonding with him at all. He wasn't the problem. I had all of those feels that you hear about, the overwhelming sense of protection and love and adoration for this little human being that I just gave birth to. What I hated was motherhood itself. The expectation suddenly placed on me by everyone. The relentless lack of sleep. The pain I went through during and after birth, because maybe naively I thought it was going to be over by the time he came out. The gaslighting when I said anything that didn't fit that narrative of I'm so happy, I'm so joyful, I'm so grateful. When I was being honest about the fact that I was not actually enjoying this time, or that I was in pain from breastfeeding. I didn't enjoy being scolded by the sister, the clinic nurse, every time I went to get a weigh-in for Kai, and I would be told that he's not eating enough, even though he was within normal range, but he was in the sort of on the lighter side of things, even though I was breastfeeding exclusively on demand, any chance that I could get, that I was no longer Aisha, that my feelings, my happiness, my health didn't matter anymore, as long as the baby was good. But for me, it was never about the baby. I didn't love that day-to-day reality of motherhood. The sleepless nights, the physical recovery, the constant demands, the silent expectations. Sometimes the expectations weren't even silent. They were right in your face. I think I do need to just mention that I also was a mom. I am still a mom who lives far away from my family. And I think that plays a huge, huge part in the postpartum recovery period of a lot of moms. So for moms like myself, it's even harder harder. We're so vulnerable. All of us, we're just so vulnerable. It's such a vulnerable time in our lives. We're healing, not just, physically, but our minds, our hearts. It is one of the biggest, if not the biggest transformation a human being can ever go through in life. So, science even says, there are reports, scientific reports that even show that our brains literally change during and after pregnancy. So this isn't something that we're making up. And postpartum depression for me wasn't intrusive thoughts, It was about the expectations from society, from the community, and honestly, from myself as well. I had also been conditioned that to be a good mother, you had to sacrifice everything and do it all with a smile. So I saw something recently that said tired moms cannot make good moms. And I completely agree. And I'm not talking about tired like, I'm feeling a bit tired, like exhausted mothers. But I also want to just add overwhelmed moms, unsupported moms, moms who are still healing physically, emotionally, don't make good mothers either. If you are someone who genuinely cares about the well-being of children, you need to prioritize the well-being of mothers. The two are inextricably linked. There's that saying, we reap what we sow, right? We cannot raise thriving children if the mothers are unsupported, traumatized, running on empty. We cannot raise whole, healthy children if we ourselves are not. It's very clear that society is entrusting us with raising the next generation. Especially in South Africa, look at the percentage of single mom households there are, where the father isn't even close to being in the picture. So if society is entrusting us with raising the future generation of humankind, then society has to do better. So for me, supporting mothers, it's just not optional anymore. It is essential. For me, it's just so simple. For children to thrive, mothers must thrive. When we are safe, when we feel supported, everyone wins. And that's why I'll never stop speaking about this. So I'd really love to hear from you. What has been your experience? How do you think we as a society can do better to support mothers through pregnancy, motherhood, the realities of motherhood? If you enjoyed this episode and my podcast in general, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell below so you can be notified of all new episodes. And drop a comment in the comment box below if you haven't already. I really want to get your thoughts on this. This is something that I think affects all of us, whether you are a mother, whether if you decided not to become a mother, or you're friends of a mother, you're a partner of a mother. I'd love to get everyone's opinions on this and how we can actually do better for mothers and therefore better for our children and the future of our of our species, literally. Please remember to share this video with a mama friend or with your partner. I really want to reach more and more women so we can build this whole mama community. So thanks again for watching. I'm Aisha O'Reilly, and I hope this episode has left you feeling a little bit more whole, mama.